All right. Well, good morning, BE3 Nation. We've got a really cool Happy Realtor podcast coming to you guys today. And we have a special guest, Andi Simmons, with us. And as always, I'm Jeff Beggins, and you've got two of our other co-hosts.
Craig Beggins and
Mike Puma.
And this is unique. We've got a special breed with us today, and it's Andi. And I'll just do a quick overview, and then I'll turn it over to you for a better overview, kind of the story of Andi, because I think it's going to be extremely inspiring to a lot of agents who can see their career kind of turn with a phone call, right? And life change, and a lot of different things happen just from kind of being real and being a cool person. So I love the story here.
Well, let me comment on that, because I think one of the things we're going through as pandemic is you have two choices in life. You have hope and despair. And we want to encourage you to be hopeful, because really amazing things can and will happen to you when you are hopeful. And I think just to hear a story like this could happen to you and the surge that's coming, but you got to be engaged, and that's the key. So
that's right. What I think is really kind of funny is you'll hear the story in a second from Andi, but there were 4 people that had the opportunity to have something that came to Andi that just chose not to answer their phone. So there's some pretty gut kicking messages in this whole process too. So Andi, I'm going to turn it over to you, because I think your story is better coming from you. If you were to kind of start us out from your new home world and kind of bring us up to today, we'd love to hear it from you. So Andi Simmons, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, guys. I'm happy to be here. So hi, everybody. Well, my story is long, over 15 years, but I'll try to keep it short. I started with new homes at US Home, and they got bought by Lennar. And I did 3 months shadowing. I strongly believe on, learning the right way from scratch. And I could not wait to go on my own, because I felt like I was ready from day one. But they still made me shadow another agent. And when I finally went on my own, I remember going into a community in Wesley Chapel, and the phone rang, and a client said, "Hey, do you still have this home available?" I said, "Yes, coming in." That day I saw my first home on day one, and I was hooked. From that moment and on, I knew I was born to do this. I just love it. I love helping people. Yeah. But not just easy. I love helping people as a family, and, seeing the kids running around, and it was just fun. So fast forward, I did 5 years with Lennar, and I decided, you know what? I have 2 small children. I cannot work every weekend like this, 8 hours, 10 hours, because, people think that it's all fun, and it is, but you work long hours. So I decided to go into general.
Well, let's stop for a second there. So like for those 5 years, you sold what, 30, 40 houses a year?
More like 80 to 100.
80 to 100 a year. So when you got into general real estate, you had a database of 400 or 500 people, homes you sold.
Yes. There was 1 year I remember, because it was through the up, the boom and the down. So I started 2005. That boom only lasted a year and a half, because I started November, December 2005. So really 2006 and 7, and then it crashed. They adjusted pricing, and we kept on selling. So I remember 1 year during the boom, that was 1 month that I sold 27 homes in 1 month. And it was crazy. Like, it was just people coming in and just, selling. And I remember that month, I was just always at work. I lived at work. So I love working. That's the bottom line. I love work, helping people. But when I decided to leave, it was because I had another baby at home, and I just couldn't do the long distance. At that time, I had a community in Lakeland, and I just couldn't, drive 2 hours and then be gone for that long.
I have a question. So when you got your license, what was the decision? What was the decisive factor to start in new homes compared to going and aligning with a brokerage, like you later did? What was that? What caused you to make that decision?
I didn't know anybody at the business. Actually, I interviewed with one of our own agents now. She was a VP in sales. Her name is Gwen. I'm sure you guys know her. She interviewed me, and this other gentleman, and he didn't want to hire me, and she did, right? And then I went into the next level. But I didn't know anything about real estate. And I thought, I bought my first home from Lennar, and that was a great experience. And I thought, why not go? I knew that I like real estate, but I didn't know enough of the world of real estate to decide new home versus general. So I thought it would be easier because I was more familiar with the new home process. So that's all. It wasn't I'm gonna, try it out and see how it goes. I actually made the commitment for 5 years. And, it was a good start for me because it gave me when I went into general, it gave me the platform to have all of those clients already that I started calling and saying, hey, now I'm in general. If you want to sell your home or if you know anybody looking to buy, please think of me. And so I immediately made that relationship, and we're in the relationship business. We just happen to sell homes, right? So we all know this. And with, real estate as an avenue, you have these clients for life if you do build those relationships. And, I'm a outgoing person, talkative. So I build those relationships and I stay in contact. Probably I should say more in contact, but I check with them, and, it's just, is that kind of relationship that makes them think of you later because they had a good experience and they know how you made them feel.
It sounds so basic, but so few agents actually do that.
Yeah.
I'll just tell a quick story. So I was reaching out to our top agents one day when we all got locked down. And Andi, of course, is one that I called. And I said, what are you up to? Are you doing okay? And we're neighbors. I can actually almost see Andi's house from here. And I said, what are you up to? And she says, I'm busy. I'm just reaching out to all my past clients and just checking on them all. I said, are you phoning or texting? I'm doing both. They want to talk, they want to talk. And they're saying if they need any help. And that's just the way she is. So how many of the times did we tell our agents, reach out to all your database and just see how they're doing and how many actually did it? The difference is she actually does it consistently.
Yeah, well, she has the intent to help, right? And this is the common theme amongst all of our top agents is that intent is not a transaction. The intent is to help. And she has that, and that's what separates her and our other top agents from everyone else. 100%.
She also has a business-minded background. You've got a bachelor's degree, right, in business.
And I have a marketing degree too. But, when I went to school for marketing, it was an AA. It's not a bachelor's. But marketing looked different. We didn't even have the internet back then.
Yeah, that's right.
so I don't know that I actually use it. Right? I don't know that I actually use that.
But then you went to Lennar, who is absolutely known as a great sales organization. And so I think the culture just became get leads, follow up, get leads, follow up. And you had some accountability and it became second nature for you too. So when you made that transition 5 years later, it was just natural, get leads, follow up. And I think the big distinction, a lot of agents don't know the difference is new home is pretty much inbound sales, right? You get a lot of practice of people walking in. You get to learn how to communicate and deal with people and learn their personality styles and know how to relate to them and build those relationships like you're talking about. And in general, you've got to go hunt your own people to do that with. That's a big, big difference. And the trade-off is you can have a life in real estate if you do it right. In new homes, you have no life because you're there for an inbound nonstop role. So that's the two different worlds. And they both have their place and time, and it served you well. But then you were able to leverage that and come over here. So
and a lot of people don't understand, just to your point, that when you go into general, it's not that, oh, I'm free, I'm not going to work anymore, because it is easy to be lazy. It is easy not to do anything. And that's the big mistake that people don't understand. Now you have to go out and make relationships. However you do it, whatever, avenue you use, that's on you. I choose now to, do networking. So I go to a lot of parties. I talk to a lot of people. I do it that way because I no longer have to door knock. But when I went into general, I went door knocking. I went all over Summerfield. I couldn't do it in my community because it's not allowed, but, and I was afraid. I was literally shaking. I remember my first time, but I did it. And I left flyers for the people that didn't answer. And I, had encountered nasty people that I just used in my head, cycle myself to, law of averages. You got to get to all the no's to get to the one yes you need. Law of averages. It's just the way it works.
That's awesome. So 2011, you come into the business, you're building it from the ground up. You've got a little bit of repeat referral from your 5 years of building relationships, but you're making that transition. So 2011 was decent. 2012 was good. How would you describe your first couple years before we had some pretty cool event? But the first couple, how would you describe that transition?
So first, before I went with you guys, which is the reason why I learned how important it is to be with a big organization. I went with Charles Rotenberg for 6 months. And I don't think you guys know this, but I went from 2011, I don't know, 6 months, fast forward to whenever I joining with you guys. It was terrible. I had to enter my own MLSs. I only did one listing. It sucked. It was so terrible because I did not know what I was doing and I had no guidance. And going into general with zero guidance is scary. It's more scary than anything else because you just lost. So I met, Bill, and he recruited me. And that's when my business really started going on. I started attending the meetings and learning what to do and learn, what I need to do, door knocking. I need to send a couple of flyers out. I need to, post things. And it started little by little. And I did really well considering my first year, because I came from the background of Lennar, considering my first year in general. I thought I did really good. I think I did like 30 transactions or something like that.
Really good.
But yeah. And
well, that's fantastic for a first year.
Yeah.
Right. And then I got, blessed with a client that was an institutional investor, Americans Home for Rent at the time. And at the end of 2012, I started with them, did a couple hundred transactions, and then half of 2013, about 400 and change. And so life changed after that because, I was working around the clock again, but I built a team. I had 2 assistants. I had 8 agents at one point, realtors, working with me to find more homes. And we had a different way of doing real estate during that 1 year, breaking down into 2, because we had to do performance and we had to do analysis and we had to go see the homes. We had to calculate repairs and so it taught me a different part of the business that I still use right now. I still talk to investors, smaller, that want to buy a few homes. And I say to them, I have a crew that can do painting and, all of this stuff for this amount of money. I know all the pricing. I know what the homes can rent for because I know how to find them. I know what, because these type of investors were looking to rent the homes, not flip them. And even with flips, I can,
I think we need to call out too. You closed like 600 homes in total with them. But how many homes did you present to them that they didn't buy?
Wait, I got to hit the pause button here because you can't just jump into 400, 600 transactions with the people watching go, wait a second. We went from new homes to door knocking to 30 deals to doing $1 million for commissions. Right. We missed something. So there's a phone call. I mean, how did you even come in? How did that, it's be there or be good, right? And when you can combine those two things, beautiful things happen. So how did you even get in touch with this deal? Let's take everybody back to that day.
All right. So this right here, people are afraid of their phone when they have to answer it, apparently. If you're in real estate, you have to answer your phone. That's it, right? Simple. I answered a call and it was a potential client. Well, a representative of the potential client, a realtor that was representing this client in a different city. And he said, we need somebody local. What's your experience and what do you know about the area? And then I, told him all about me and what I know about the area. He flew in the next day. And then I put him on my car and drove him all around and explained everything. So all of that background did help me. And, being a new agent, a lot of times say, well, I have nothing to do. Well, go visit inventory, go to caravans, go to builders and check out communities because all of that's knowledge. And when you're, you don't think you're learning, but you are. When you have that in the back of your mind and somebody asks you about it, now you can say it easy. Now you can say, yep, I visited this community, is awesome. Or, yeah, this community is not going to work because it has a big CDD. Or, you know, if you're payment sensitive, or any situation, even as a new person, you can use what you got now to help you for your future. And that's it. You just got to prepare yourself. So all of my back and my experience helped me with that phone call, because I built a relationship, and that's what matters with real estate. You know, building a relationship, making the client feel comfortable with you, and then finding them what they need. And at that time, it was investment homes that worked for their criteria. You know, they had to be certain year, they had to be certain size, they had to have, you know, certain return on investment, as far as, you know, the percentage that they were looking for. And so, you know, putting all of that together, that's how I got that one client. And then after that was done, Craig calls me one day and say, hey, I have a connection with Invitation Homes. You want to, you know, go meet with them? So we go meet with them. And we had that client for a small period of time, because they had like 5 or 10 other realtors that they were doing the same, until they changed their criteria. And so, you know, we had several opportunities with different clients after that, because of that one phone call.
I wanna touch on this real quick though, because I think this is an important thing that would have stopped a lot of people, or at least been a major disruption to them. So you get this amazing client, you're doing all this transactions, you're making an insane amount of money through this process, and then one day it just stops, right? You get that call that says, you know what, we don't need agents anymore, we're done, thanks. What was that like, and how did you, you know, and be real, right? I'm sure that was not the best day you've ever had. So
actually,
how did you come out on the other side of that? Because that is something that a lot of agents, maybe not at that scale, but they go through, right? They get an investor client, or they get rolling, and then all of a sudden, bam, they get smacked in the face, and then they stop because they don't know how to push through it. So I'd love to get your thoughts on how you did that.
Yeah, so thank you for asking that question, Mike, because I remember I was sitting at a local restaurant, Circles, with my whole team. I had my 2 assistants and 6 agents at the time, and I got the call, and it just came out of nowhere. And I had to hang up the phone and tell all my team that the client is gone away. Like, that's it. As of right now, we no longer represent Americans Home for Rent. And everybody was a little bit in shock. And, you know, people were like, oh my goodness. But the good news is that all of us were realtors and have been realtors, and we could go back to normal. Now, this client blessed a lot of people, not just me. But from that moment and on, after I delivered the bad news and I had to let go of one assistant, you know, because it is what it is, I went back to the basics. And the basics is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing because it will never let you down. If you go back to the basics every time, you will be successful.
I love that. And that's just such a cool story. I could only imagine what the order changed, right? You went from having a nice lunch to 3 rounds of tequila, please.
Now we finished having the lunch. We didn't drink. It was still lunch. We had to go back to work. Should have been happy hour.
Yeah, really go back to work for sure. So what I think is interesting about what you've been able to do is, let alone be able to knock down $1.4 million in commissions in a calendar year, which is unlike what most people ever do, right? Which is fantastic, and really handle it well. And then be humble and real enough to know, hey, party's over. Let me go create another party. But what was interesting about that is you got to create another party. And you went from, I mean, you were number 3 real estate agent, all of Century 21, the entire country, Grand Centurion, the top accolades in the entire country, flying high on the world by everybody's definition, amazing success. And then you got to define what success is for you again. And then if I look at your lifestyle now, as it's inspiring to many, and it's probably surprising to some, because you're doing a tremendous, how many deals do you think you'll end up doing this calendar year?
So I do about between 55 and 60 transactions every year. Yep. Even after that client went away. So fast forward or back up to 2013, finished the year going back to general. So let's say 2014, which is no investor. I still did, 55 to 60 transaction. And I decided that moment that I was going to own, or not own, but infiltrate the luxury market. Because if I wanted to make more money and not work harder, I needed to have more friends with $1 million homes. so basically what happened then is that 2014, I moved into my new home in 2013. In 2014, I decided, you know what, this is what I'm going to focus on. And I think my first $1 million listing was not first $1 million listing, my first connection to $1 million listing, because it took 3 years of following up and being after them to get it. And then I didn't sell it until like 2 years later. I think it was 2015. And then it started, from them 2016, 2017. And so every year I do a little bit more higher transactions or higher dollar amount of homes.
Yep.
But my main butter was always at 200 to 300,000 because that's where I came from. So I had to learn and, slowly graduate to the $1 million to, infiltrate that market. And those don't come easy. They don't sell as fast as the $200 ones or $200,000 ones. They sell, sometimes they take a year because not a lot of people can afford $1 million homes, right?
Well, some of the things you did, Andi, like I said, we live in the same neighborhood. Andi moved into the neighborhood, and then she got involved in the neighborhood.
Yes.
And you volunteered on committees, and she actually treated it like a farm.
I became I went to my first meeting, my first, community HOA meeting. And at that meeting, and it was like, I don't know, the first month I lived here, and the first meeting they said, they start going down the committees, and we need somebody for the youth social. And I go, I have 2 little kids. I'm perfect. So I volunteer, and then I started doing parties. Who doesn't like parties, right? So I was in the fun committees. So I did all of the egg hunt parties for Easter, the Christmas party, the decoration. I did all of the Halloween parties. So I organized, and my kids at the time, Gabby was 8 when we moved here. And Jasmine was 2 or 3, and it was perfect. So now this past year, I just gave up that committee because now I have a 16-year-old and a 10-year-old. They don't want to do egg hunting anymore. Right. So I had to get involved in a different committee, but that's how I plugged in and got to know a lot of people real quick. And, I always tell, new clients, not new clients, new realtors. They ask me, hey, what can I do to network more? I said, start with your community, get involved with, what's going on with the community, volunteer. When you give, it's just the law of nature. When you give, you receive, not because it's your intention to just get things but because you're given. And when you give your time, when you give even money, it comes back to you. When you give energy and effort and love, everything comes back to you. So that's my philosophy in life. And, it turned out to be true.
That's awesome. Now, 55, 60 transaction, you're firmly in top half of 1% of all million plus agents in the country, consistently year over year, year after year. And it's an amazing thing. What I think is interesting is that you easily, could do 100 if you wanted to. But you've made some cool decisions and really good definition of what does happiness mean for you and your husband, your family, and your whole lifestyle. And I think you made some pretty cool choices. So what is happiness for the Simmons family now? How did that shift? Because instead of doing 100 deals, you decided to do 55, 60 because that allows you, affords a cool lifestyle. So what is happiness to you guys now?
So we love to travel, and quality time is my thing, because every routine gets on the way of sometimes quality time because you're rushing, right? So with having kids, they're doing volleyball, they're doing gymnastics, they're here and there, and you're dropping off, picking up, and you gotta, and you do laundry and cook, and you have a life, right? So I love taking time to explore new places, and I involve my girls. So now they develop the love for travel, and it doesn't have to be expensive vacations. Some of them are, but it doesn't always, have to be. Sometimes it's just about going to visit family. Sometimes it's just going to a new place we've never been and hiking, or Europe. I took them to Europe last year twice, and it was their first time. But travel is my way of, forcing quality time that everybody enjoys. And I try to do it as often as possible. Because, at home, don't get me wrong, we have a great lifestyle. We have a pool, we live on the water, we take our boat out every time we can, but it's still home, right? So you take some things for granted, even though you have an awesome home. We're not necessarily homebodies. We like to be out and about. So this is how we do it. We take our jet skis out, and, we spend the day having fun outside. And, it's how we like to live our lives. Excuse me 1 second. Jasmine, don't do that. Thank you, baby. I'm on the phone. Sorry.
I
Don't do that. Let's do it later.
From something the other day, a couple months ago, and I didn't know, I'm not a Facebook guy, so I don't, but she posts her whole life on Facebook apparently. But I didn't know, but I called her, and I felt really bad because she was in Switzerland. And what is it, a 6-hour time change?
I answer my phone.
And she answered her phone. That was my key. So I don't want you to think when she's taken off, but as a realtor, you really don't ever take off, right?
No, you don't. I work from everywhere. And that client, by the way, took a while to close, but they were so happy. And, they, even though I was in Switzerland, when I called them, they're like, appreciated the fact that, you know what, I'm going to just work with you because you're taking time from your vacation to answer the phone for me. So right. They felt special.
It was wrong.
But I think the point that Jeff is making with all this too is a very important one. So I want to stress that even more. Andi has decided, and this is important for everyone who's watching, you have got to figure out what makes you happy. You've got to do that, right? And then if it truly does make you happy, be prepared to make sacrifice to keep that part of your life, right? To Jeff's point, if a client called her right now and said, hey, I want you to go do this, but it's going to mean that she can't travel for the next 2 years because she's going to be running, to her end wits to get it all done, she has the option to say yes. But knowing Andi, she's probably going to say no, or let me get a team to help because I'm not willing to sacrifice giving up that travel and giving up that family time for the money, right? And that's because she knows what makes her happy, and she's going to stick to that. And that ultimately is what's going to keep her going. Because if you continue to do things just for the money, and you end up sacrificing the things that actually give you joy and make you happy, you're going to burn yourself out. You're not going to last. You may be able to be successful in the short term financially, but long term, it's not going to play out well or end well. So I think that's a really important point. You've got to figure out what makes you happy. Andi knows, hey, these things make me happy. Here's the level of income I need to be able to do those things. And so I'm going to make sure that I do what I need to do to get that. But there's no real need for me to go push more because at the end of the day, I may be able to do 100 transactions, make a little bit more money, but that means that's one less trip to Europe. That's not worth it. Nope, no thank you, right? And that ability to have the ability to say that means everything. And so I think that's a really important point that I want to make sure we get across to everyone listening.
Hey, Mike, let me add on to that because I think that's really the biggest issue here. And I think what's the evolution in Andi in your world is you guys know what it costs you to live, the lifestyle that you want. And I think the goal now, from what I know from talking with you and from Thomas, is you're making other investments along the way that spin off cash flows. You have some investment properties now, right?
Yeah, well, recently we sold them because we're deciding on doing other things. But yes, we did for the longest.
Okay, but so that was an asset that you created for the income that you had that spun off assets. And now you're sitting on cash to be able to reinvest that to something else. And the reason you want to go do that is to ultimately have your passive investments spin off enough cash flow to support your lifestyle, right? And so
Right.
every time you do another year of 60 transactions, that's a seriously nice income level. And then, so you don't need all of that to live. So you have a chunk of that you can put down on another investment, or to sit on cash to have dry powder to take advantage of an opportunity that comes. So you can get to the point where passive income will come in to support yourself. So I know that is one of the major goals that I want to remind everybody of, is once you get there, then the pressure is off on a dramatic level. And that if a coronavirus comes in and knocks out the industry for 9 months, you're okay.
You're not going to stress.
Right?
Yeah.
You're
And
not
to
stressing.
to your point, I do want to add one thing. I love what I do so much that I could see myself doing this until I die. Like there's no retirement, there is slowing down, but you do work and make money to support your happiness. Yes, absolutely. But even when I'm gone, it gives me more fuel to come back and work again, because I've taken a break. And that's the thing, the beautiful thing about, loving what you do is that you see yourself doing this forever. You could do it forever. And then the longer you're in it, the easier it becomes. And that's been my experience. Now people call me. Now I don't have to do door knocking. Now I don't have to do, farming in, 10 places. I narrowed it down to just 2 or 3. Now I don't have to call anybody. I can just touch base with people and they'll refer me clients. Like it's easier the longer you're in it. And I don't want to say you get lazy by any means, but it's like, being a pilot, for example, when you start flying an Airbus, it flies itself. Like literally I have friends that are flying $1 million jets that saying makes a great pilot lazy, or it makes them good because you don't have to do anything, just manage the situation. Well, that's what come with years of experience and training, right? So you can get there eventually. Everybody can get there eventually, but you cannot be lazy from the beginning and expect things to be, coming to you. Oh, I'm in real estate now. Everybody calls me. No, you have to work from the beginning, and then it becomes easier.
And it's not just a pretty Instagram post. It involves getting tired, banging on doors, and working to build your tribe. I mean, you've got a tribe of people that know you, trust you, like you, and now you become the knowledge broker. You own real estate in their brain, and so anytime real estate circulates around them, your face pops up, and you get the text message or the phone call.
Correct. You become the expert.
But people forgot about you were banging doors. You were making calls. You were door knocking FSBOs. You were hitting expireds to grow your business, to grow your sphere, to get somebody to do a good job for. So they said, great job. Here's a testimonial that you leverage for the next one, for the next one, for the next one, for the next one. So guys, got to keep pushing. Craig, you got a great analogy from your rocket ship. It's a good segue into that.
Yeah, when a rocket ship takes off from the launch pad, it expends more energy getting into the atmosphere than it does while it's circling around the orbit. So you can't take that for granted. She expended a lot of energy to get her career off the ground. And now she's shed the fuel cans and she's in orbit. And she's still consuming energy, but it's a lot less fuel burn, right?
A lot less fuel. So now I can travel more often and do a lot less work. And it makes it, make it look easy because I've done all my legwork. Absolutely.
And she didn't get lazy. She's still staying in touch with her past clients. I'm not worried about driving by a house that Andi sold 5 years ago and seeing a competitor sign in that yard.
Unless I didn't like the client, which has happened once or twice.
Perfect.
Some people. Just kidding.
Right.
Well, you also do get the luxury of being choosy, right? You could say no and refer to, I would really love to work with you, but I'm busy. Let me refer you to my teammate. He's really good in that neighborhood. A nice way of saying, I don't want you.
Done that a lot.
So you can be choosy. Well, I think this is extremely valuable and awesome information. And I think those who are watching this one are going to get quite a lot of nuggets out of it. So
I wrote down 4 nuggets that I think, just for the sake of repeating. I think number 1, as we started talking, was you have to really sincerely have a desire to help. And check. Andi checks that box. 2, you really have to answer your phone. And it's so silly because I've called a lot of agents in the last couple of weeks, and it's amazing how many don't answer the phone. It just is. The 3rd I wrote down is you really have to have market knowledge. You can't fake this stuff, right? If she was doing that tour around Tampa Bay and didn't know about West Chase and South Tampa and the school districts and all that stuff, and her experience that she gained working for Lennar for 5 years and moving around from community to community, you've got to have market. This is the basics you have to have. The fourth thing is community involvement. Really put yourself out there. And you've got all these, we call them pillars. Do you work for sale by owners or expired listings much, Andi?
I don't. No, I don't, because I don't have the need. And I don't want to call them hotter sales, but because of the way that I built my business, I don't have the need to do that.
Right. And you don't have to do every facet of what we do.
Yeah, but I have gone to Mike Ferry training for the weekend in Palm Beach, and I, get a list of 1,000 and start calling people. And actually, one of the $1 million listings was me following up during that seminar that, forced me to call them, because I had almost forgotten about it because it's been so long. But yes, going back to the basics, that's one of my basics is, picking up the phone. So, excuse me, now that the market, let's say it comes to a halt, and I'm not saying that it will, because I'm super positive. I got 5 listings went live this week, and, my phone is ringing, so people are calling. So I think it's going to be a good thing when everything gets reopened. We're going to be extremely busy. But going back to the basics is, if everything went to go to a halt, that's one of my basics. I go and start calling people, and if I have to call expires, I will. If I have to call for sale by owners or knock on the door, I will. I'm not afraid of doing that if I had to.
To me, that's the separation, though. That's the separation for me. And I agree with those nuggets you wrote down, Craig. But to me, that right there is the biggest definition of success compared to somebody else, because it's the process. Andi loves the process. From the moment she got out, do you know how many people go into new home sales and follow a similar track that come out and don't do what you've done because they don't love the process? You came out, you got to work. Then you have this amazing partnership. It goes away, and you go right back to the basics, as you call them. I call it the process, because if you love the process, you're going to go right back to it, and you're going to follow it because that's what you do, and you love the game. If you're doing this because of dollars, you would have been so overwhelmed that $1.4 million in commissions just went away, that you probably would have been out of the business. Most people would have been out of the business because they don't love the process. They don't love the game. You just say, all right, time to go back to doing what I was doing before. And you wouldn't have done that if you didn't love it.
Well,
and so that to me is a huge thing.
It's also, I think the word we use is grit. But I remember, Andi, we were big Mike Ferry sponsorship people. And you came with us to a Mike Ferry event. And then you signed up for Mike Ferry coaching. I thought that was really interesting. Because here you are, super successful, making a bunch of money, but you went and hired Mike Ferry to coach you when times got bad. How was that experience?
And it was great at the time. I did it for a year, because you do a year contract. And, sometimes people go through, and I know this is true for me, you go through life and you got lows and you got highs, right? When you're on your high, you're fine. You're, great. But when you're in your low, like when I lost my client, for example, you have to do something to help you get remotivated, pushed, because otherwise you just have the, the possibility, or not the possibility, that's not the word I'm looking for, but you could stay there and get stuck and get depressed and be like, oh, what am I going to do next? So that was one of my ways. Every time I go through, a low, or I see myself coming down from something, I book something. I mean, I've gone to, the Unleash Power Within 3 times. Why do I keep going with, because it gets me pumped every time. And why do I keep doing Mike Ferries? I've done that like 5 times, because it gets me re-engaged and re-excited. And every time you go to a place to learn something, or a new seminar or anything, even if you heard it before, you're in a different stage in life and you get something new out of it.
Yep.
So in my opinion, I mean, I just turned 40 years old, and I started at 25. I'm a different Andi from when I was 25. So imagine if I rely on only my knowledge and my maturity level and my experience from when I was 25. You just change as a person.
Yeah.
Those are great points.
Shout out to us. I told all the managers about my affairs management thing next week. I said, I'm not paying for it. And everybody said they want to go anyway.
Exactly.
So we do the same thing. You know, we've got to deal with different changes coming up. And what are we going to do? So you seek outside. And that's what everybody who's watching this podcast is doing too. So I hope we give you all some good nuggets today.
You find a tribe that you're going to work with, and then that you're going to work around too, and your business partners, and make sure you guys have alignment. And then there's really nothing to stop you along the way.
Well, here's a risky question. Jonathan can edit out later if he doesn't like, but Andi, you generate your own business now, right?
Yes.
You don't really take much from the company, but you still work for the company. What keeps you here versus going to a 100% shop? Like, there's so many out there right now.
Same reason I came to begin with. Remember, I went to Charles Rutenberg for like a 6-month period of time, and I thought that was hell. It was. When you have no support, when you have no support and you don't come with a big organization, a Century 21, it changes everything. It changes your environment, and therefore you're confident. And I'm a very confident person, but having Century 21 behind me, it gives me an extra boost. Nobody's bigger than Century 21. Who? Nobody. So it's like being with a Fortune 500 company with, Lennar versus, a rinky dinky builder. I mean, you have a lot more
power behind you if you need it.
Power behind you, exactly.
And you don't need it at all times, but when you need it, you need it. You play the card when you need it.
And you know what? I like the perks. I like the conventions and, the extra traveling with the company, or, the group meetings and the, podcasts or the training. When I watch the Tuesday meeting on Tuesday at 11:30 p.m. through Facebook. Thank you, Jonathan. But, that's how I got to do it. I loved it. Everybody in my household was quiet, and I put on my Facebook or, the podcast, and I listened to it. That's how I knew we had a mandatory 18 meeting for Wednesday morning.
Well, that makes me feel good, because here's our top agent. Top agent of the whole company, paying attention and attending a sales meeting.
No, I knew about it, but I forgotten about it. Put it that way. Right. So it reminded me, oops, yeah, I got to do that tomorrow morning. Right. So point is that, it's good to have all of this support and tools. And if you're not using it and you're a brand new agent, you're doing yourself a disservice, because, you guys are only here to help us be successful. And I don't call you, all the time, this, but when I need you, I know you're there. And, when I text you, you answer. And, if I have an issue, a legal issue, you tell me where to go. Like, I think that's valuable to me. And I think that's important.
Yep. All right. So last nugget for those who are watching, how would you summarize those who are kind of struggling a little bit, haven't been able to get over the hump? What advice do you have for those agents that are struggling to get to the next level?
Well, first find out what the next level is for you. What does that mean? Because it's kind of like the goal, right? If you don't know where you're going, you don't know where to aim to. So find out what that means to you and work. I mean, you have to work. You cannot be lazy, and you have to, even if you don't know how. Like I said, I was trembling the first time I went door knocking. I was like, oh, what if something happens to me? But then cancel that thought. Think of a new one, right? Like, just manage your own brain, anxieties, whatever you want to call it. You can conquer it if you, talk to yourself, give yourself a pep talk, and you know what, I'm going to do this, and get over it. Get over yourself. Go do it. That's the bottom line. Most people don't do it. They don't do it.
That's perfect. Perfect. Well, Andi, thank you very much for taking the time with us today. I know you're super, super busy, and you're an inspiration to many agents, and we're very proud to have you on the team. And
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Hey, are you going to do the canal sing along this weekend?
Yes, every Saturday. I love it. I love it. Everybody's safe in their boat, and we're all singing. And I cannot sing. I tell you that. I cannot sing, but I'm still singing.
You just turn the volume up and blast it, and people on their docks throwing stuff. It's fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, another way of networking.
That's right.
That's right.
Yep. Upload the video into the Apollo. I uploaded the video into the Apollo canal, and then other people share it. So
Yeah,
hey,
people were saying, I saw you on the boat there. How did you see me? Because Andy posted a video.
yeah.
Cool. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you for watching, and thank you for your time again. And you guys have a wonderful day, and see you guys soon.
Peace.
Bye, guys.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye.